Well, it's finally here. There has been boatloads of speculation around Goldshell releasing their own Home Kaspa Miner, and the stats are pretty impressive. This morning, Goldshell made an announcement releasing the KA box, their brand new Home Kaspa Miner, to compete with the IceRiver KS0 Pro. Today, I sit down with fellow content creator and home crypto miner 𝐋𝐸 to talk about our thoughts on the hash rate, the watts, and finally the price. If you guys are looking for links to anything we talk about today, check directly down below in the video description. I'll have links to all of the news announcements, Twitter posts, and some vendors that I found are already selling the KA box. Stay tuned. Sorry to interrupt your video, but check this out. I constantly get emails from the community asking me about trustworthy hosting facilities in the United States that I recommend. Well, I got you covered. Listen up. A few months back, I visited BlockOps Mining's brand new facility in Central Arkansas. The team there was super professional, knowledgeable, and everyday miners like you and I. After visiting the facility, I sent them a few of my ASIC miners for hosting and have been super happy with their service and communication. Go contact BlockOps Mining directly down below in the video description and tell them the Hobbyist miner sent you for great pricing on miners and hosting. What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Well, today I'm joined by 𝐋𝐸. What's going on, Seb?
Not much. Excited to get into this.
Yeah, so guys, just dropped today. We're recording this midday on Monday, and just dropped earlier today was the fact that Goldshell, we've been waiting for this, has announced the specs on their brand new home miner. So Seb, you ready to talk about this a little more?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so we had a few places that this actually got announced. The first place was on Twitter, and on Twitter they went ahead and announced that kind of all the details would be coming out later this week, but hey, it's the internet. It takes a few hours and everybody knows everything. So the Goldshell, they're calling it the KA box, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't call it the KS box to align with other manufacturers.
Yeah.
But it's 1.18 terahash at 400 watts. So let's talk initial impressions here. You know, we're over a terahash when it comes down to our hash rate. What are your thoughts on just the initial hash rate perspective versus the competitors, which the competitors are really the IceRiver KS0 Pro?
Yeah, I mean, I am actually very surprised by the specs of this thing. I really did not think it would come out being this competitive. Goldshell doesn't really have a history of, you know, being sort of up there amongst the big players in terms of like efficiency as well as value for money, really. I was expecting this to be maybe like not even half this hash rate, but still 400 watts. So yeah, I mean, definitely a positive surprise there just in terms of the specs of this thing. It's basically like 6 KS0 Pros, but for the wattage of 4 KS0 Pros, which, I mean, can't go wrong, really.
Yeah, I mean, I back before we had this announcement, over the last few, I'd say the last few months, you know, I've known about it. There's been speculation on it. I've been talking with Goldshell directly on it. I knew it was coming, but really didn't have anything more. I knew that they would have a home miner version, and they actually have a pro version, which I think is going to be very similar to a Lite, kind of like their KD Lite or their new SC Lite. But I'll be honest, I was very hesitant as to the performance, just like you had said, what this unit would actually do. And the reason there was hesitation is we've seen them come out with like the Mini Doge 3 more recently, or we have a lot of the other 2 models that came out, and they were just very lackluster, meaning they were always behind when it came down to your expectations as a home miner. They just weren't super competitive. And I think a lot of people were saying, hey, the announcement or teaser of this announcement was several, I don't know, a few months back maybe, and everybody was like, Goldshell's got to hit a home run with this. They have not had any home runs during the bear market, and there was a lot of speculation on what it would need to do price-wise and also hash rate-wise to really compete. And IceRiver moves quick. So does Bitmain. And so when this thing announced this morning, I'm going to be honest, I was absolutely amazed to see it break a terahash. We see the KS0 Pro at 200 gigahash stock. We're seeing people play around with all different types. I mean, you and I have both done videos on all different methods to overclock these KS0 Pros, and like people trying to squeeze to 300 out of it. And now it's like Goldshell. I'm going to say Goldshell's like, hold my beer. I got a terahash right here for you, which is really surprising.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the kind of closest thing in terms of performance, which would be like the IceRiver KS1, which does 1000 gigahash or 1 terahash, so less than the 1.18 that the Goldshell does, but that's at 600 watts, and this one is at 400 watts. So even then, like the KS1 is like a massive machine. Now, I don't know if the KS1 really is kind of even for sale anymore. I don't think a lot of people buy it, specifically that one. And but one thing that really shocked me though is like this Goldshell is like right up there in terms of efficiency with the KS3s. You know, getting that same about 0.34 watts per gigahash. Either Goldshell is actually on the kind of cutting edge here with this miner, which we haven't really seen from them before, in my opinion, or it tells me that manufacturers like Bitmain have a lot more gas in the tank, and they have kind of purposely nerfed their own miners previously. Do you see what kind of like what I mean by that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It actually reminds you very quickly of like the KS5. Like we saw IB-Link come out with their unit, and no more than 2 weeks later, Bitmain came out with the KS5 like it was nothing. Like just as you had said, they've come out with lower performing units and then held on to some of these higher performing ones. Or maybe we're absolutely wrong, and Goldshell has really come out with something fantastic here. You were talking a little bit more. You know, you were comparing it to the KS1. We talked about some of the efficiencies to some of the higher models. To give folks at home, based off of today, which is the 11th, Monday morning, let's say you base this off of 10 cents, you know, just throw it out there. This unit, revenue-wise, does $10.23 a day. That is significantly better, 5 times better, pretty much, than what you see from your KS0 Pro traditionally. And your electric rate, if you're going off of 10 cents, is about 96 cents a day in cost. So you're about $9.27. And Kaspa right now is at low 15, right on the edge there. So yeah, I mean, the unit is, I would say from a performance perspective, this unit is meeting expectations, if not more. As a home miner, I'm really impressed. Now, within the last hour, which is crazy, this like came out an hour ago, and within the last hour, we got some pricing on this unit leaked from vendors, probably not intentional. And I'll be honest, I'm very surprised. So to give folks at home an idea, right now on Crypto Miner Bros, they're asking $1,799, so $1,799, and on ASIC Marketplace, $1,789. I did check another one of the vendors that I work with closely, Coin Mining Central. I know Seb does as well. They don't have it on their site yet, but I'm going to be honest, it'll probably be there by the end of today. What are your thoughts on a price point of just below $1,800 for this miner?
My initial reaction was like, ooh, that's a lot. But then thinking about it, it's like, well, comparing it to anything else right now, like it's kind of just 4 times the price of like the lowest pricing you could find of the KS0 Pro. But it's like 6 times the performance and better efficiency. So it's kind of looking like a pretty good deal. So I think even though 1,800 sounds like a lot, if that is what it's going to be actually priced at, it kind of still makes sense to me that is like it sounds like a lot for a little mini box miner, but for the profitability of it, like nothing else changing, right? Like this thing ROI is in what would that be, 6 months, less than 6 months, which I mean pretty good. Obviously net hash will grow and Kaspa's emission will go down, but on the other hand, maybe Kaspa's coin price goes up, and then, you know, that would counterbalance it. So you know, can't really make too solid in terms of future predictions on that in that regard. But yeah, I think they kind of it's I would call it a competitive price point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at all the Kaspa hardware in the space and where it fits, I think the price does make sense. However, for me, I constantly want to look at this through the lens of a home miner, and a home miner who's got 1 or 2 rigs. I mean, I think very quickly we, as content creators, look to home miners and we think of fellow content creators and stuff like that. And we are the exception. We have far more than what most home miners are running at home. And so for me, when I look through it through that lens, it's like, okay, this is a pretty hefty price point. I honestly was talking with the Goldshell rep James earlier this morning, and he even asked me, like, what are my thoughts on a price for this? And I said, honestly, to keep this within the sphere of a home miner, but also to make it accessible that anybody could really afford it in that regard, I'd say it was under $1,000 is where I came in at before I knew this information, because I was like, yes, it's performing, as you said, 6 times higher, and they've priced it at about a point of 5 times, where you could be at, or a little less. But for me, I'm also in I felt like it was easier for people to pull the trigger on something under $1,000, like with the KS0 Pro, than something now we're almost at $2,000. And I'm not even looking at, I've completely put aside hash rate, watts, daily profitability. I'm merely looking at the fact of capital that home miners will spend on this unit. Will this unit probably sell out? Absolutely. Like, I don't see, have we seen the KS0 Pro? Like, you sometimes have a hard time finding that unit. I think this unit will do very well from a sales perspective.
Yeah, I think so too. And I definitely see what you mean, and I agree that like 1800, like regardless of what, is a lot of money for a home miner to spend on any kind of hardware. So it is a tougher price point from that perspective. But then again, from the perspective of like what you get for your money compared to the competition, yeah, that price point does make sense. One thing I wanted to touch on too is like, with these Goldshell boxes, historically, they've always had 2 different hash rate modes, basically. So like the high hash rate mode, and then also the like high efficiency mode, which would cut some of the hash rate, but like almost slice the wattage in half. I haven't seen any info like that about this one, but I mean, it should have that, right? Like all other ones have had that. So that, because the reason I bring that up is because that would all obviously kind of add to the longevity of this. So even if profitability does decrease over time with this thing, there will come a point where like you could then probably swap it over to a hypothetical low power mode and eke out another 6 months of it still being profitable after that point. And I hope and I'm crossing my fingers that this thing will ship with a low power mode, or at least get a firmware update in the future with a low power mode, because that is what has I'm not gonna say that's what saved Goldshell's previous mini box miners, because they've not really been very profitable at all. Some of them not even on the day they launched, basically. But it definitely helps with profitability.
So one thing I thought about with the box miners is there's been a massive challenge with some of these box 2 versions with heat. I've seen people like, I think it was the CKB one, I think the CK Box 2 that came out and was having all types of like overheating problems with them. I know there were a number of people in my community that dealt with those when they first came out. So I'm hoping that they address that with this newer version, coming out with the Kaspa miners.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I am also now very curious about these bigger models that Goldshell have been kind of talking about that they are going to be launching for Kaspa mining. In the end, I kind of think it's a little bit of a two-edged sword, I guess, but more competition usually means better pricing for the consumer. So having another player now, we used to have only IceRiver, then it was IceRiver and Bitmain, and then it was IBLink and WindMiner and all of these, and now also another big player in Goldshell coming in. Hopefully it will kind of help bring down the pricing of these machines, and more than anything, bring down the ROI for these machines for us. But also more hardware availability will probably drive up the network hash rate. So that's a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, there has been news that they even talked about that they would be releasing 2 miners, a home miner and a pro miner, which my guess is it's not like a all the way to the level of like a KD Max. It's more of like a light. But we've seen like more recently they released the SC Lite. They do have the light or the Kadena light miner as well. So that's what I think they're classifying as a pro miner, which I think is a good step for the Goldshell. I think going as far as like the KD Max unfortunately did not work out well. So if things continue the way they're going, we could very much see them release this, and hopefully soon. It'd be awesome if we get it like within the next week or two. I'm curious on what that price point's going to be. If this price point's at 1800, where is this, next price point going to be? But if it keeps on the trend where it is of hash rate versus watts, we could see a very big competitor to IceRiver and a lot of their models out there, just like you were talking about. So I think there's a lot of the unknown right now, but I'm hoping Goldshell keeps it up, because I think more competition is better for us as home miners when it comes down to price and availability. Yeah,
I also want to add here that like if this other, rumored miner, or they've mentioned it themselves, haven't they, right? Like the bigger model. Yeah. Then like I would say right exactly now is the time for them to launch it. Like they cannot be dragging their feet, because Bitmain has just launched their KS5 and KS5 Pro. So if their like Goldshell's miner is somewhat competitive with that one, being I'm talking about the bigger model now that they've kind of mentioned that they have coming out. If that is close in terms of efficiency with the KS5, which hopefully it should be somewhat close, it should be better than this box miner at least, right? Then right now is the time for them to launch it, because they don't want to drag their feet, because if they do for too long, then Bitmain is probably going to have something coming out near to that release, which will completely crush it, and a lot of people will just not want to buy it. It'll be exactly as what happened with their KD Max and the KA3 coming out and just completely decimating it in terms of efficiency, hash rate, and price. So those are my kind of final thoughts about this whole thing with Goldshell and Kaspa miners.
Yeah, absolutely. So time will tell. We'll have to see as time goes on. I'm hoping to get my hands on one of them so we can actually test this out and see how well it performs. But yeah, other than that, guys, leave comments down below on everything that Seb and I have talked about. Love to get your thoughts, your feelings on some of these subjects regarding hash rate and watts. How about on price? I know a lot of people will have feelings on price, and I get it 100%. So leave those comments down below. Let us know your thoughts as well on the Pro Light Miner that'll be coming out here soon. But from myself and Seb, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.